and we can just jump right into the introductions. So Victoria, would you like to start us off
Yes.
and go around?
Hi, I'm Victoria Clues. I'm a member at large.
David Ellsworth, member at large.
Sally Thompson, member at large.
Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission rep.
Ben Gordon, TPO liaison.
Tim Horst, BPAC chair, member at large.
Jim Sherk, Vice Chair, Member at Large.
Peter Davitt, officer at large, member at large.
John Marsh, City of Tampa, Transportation.
Colette Watson with the Environmental Protection Commission.
David Slutty, member at large.
Nicole Sutton, Florida Department of Health, Office of Health Equity, and I'm the alternate in this role with a new staff member today.
Hi, my name's Sylvia James.
All right, thank you very much. So next we can go into the roll call and declaration of quorum. So I see lots of people here today, so I don't think we'll have any problems with the quorum. So that's really nice to see everyone. And then also we have the vote for consent for remote member participation. So I actually wanted to have a little discussion about that. I guess.
If you're still talking, I don't think we can hear you online.
Okay. So I guess I'm personally at a place where I would like to advocate for, people to come in and be in person. I think there's a lot of advantages to that as far as participation and communication, and just I think will be a more effective advocacy board to have that in-person aspect back. So that's my personal opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts as far as where you're at with that. But I guess we do have the option, so we're going to vote on the remote member participation. So then if we vote no, then it would just go to Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just participate, or you would just be a viewer online rather than an active voting participant online.
Can they vote if we have to have a quorum in order for them to be able to vote? So I'm not sure that it really matters because we've got to have that quorum.
Yes, and that doesn't change as far as the in-person.
So you're
quorum.
feeling like they shouldn't be able to vote either?
I'm feeling like if we have a quorum here and we also have remote people online, my thought would be that we would make this the last time in which they are, voting members.
Unless they come in and show up in person.
Right.
We're trying to encourage people to come in. Remember the old days, pre-pandemic, this room was full of people. And the conversation got spirited, and there was a lot of discussion, and you couldn't hide behind your screen and play whatever's on your phone. So I agree. I think we can't cut everybody off immediately, but I think we should set a date or a meeting and say, if you want to be able to go, you have to start showing up here.
But they still can participate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I would say sure.
okay.
It's just that
That's
it comes
more
down to
viewer.
Gotcha, viewer.
I guess a question maybe for Ben or Wade is this, so we do have this vote consent for member participation. Is that something we're obliged to do, or is that at the discretion of chair? Do we have to have this vote, or can Tim say, we're not going to vote on this?
I think he's
And
trying
take
to
it off.
clean it up for all of us.
I'm asking, what does the bylaws require with respect to this vote? Because we could just meet and vote it
Right.
down if there's
Yeah.
a consensus. Everyone.
Speaking candidly, I can't remember. I pull out the bylaws.
Wade, do you have
The
a?
bylaws are basically silent on that. We do have to have the in-person quorum of 9 people for this committee. Basically, at any
Like, how did
meeting,
this start?
if you all choose not to allow remote participation, people will still be able to view, but they will not be able to participate in the discussions.
They can comment,
They could
they can
always
weigh
write in a
in, yeah.
question that we could
they
address.
can always participate, they just wouldn't.
They would not be allowed to vote, and I guess it would be the committee's discretion whether or not to allow them to provide comments during the discussion period for any action items as well. I would say it's still, my personal feeling is it's still good to have participation of people, even if you don't allow them to vote, but
Yeah.
that is at your discretion.
But I think that also, if you don't allow them to vote, that would encourage them, I would hope, to attend. But if they couldn't attend and understand they can't vote, they still could provide comments, so.
I think that makes
I
sense.
think that covers really any.
Okay, I think that clears it up. So, sounds like, I mean, should we take a little poll as far as, like, are we in favor of that? Is there anyone opposed to moving?
Wait, I
forward?
have a question about that.
who's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does this also mean that not being in person would not count towards the required attendance?
That's a question I had as well, so thank you for bringing that up.
Repeat it.
The committee can consider either. I mean, it's up to you all what you would like to consider attendance. If you want to consider virtual attendance as part of attendance, that's great. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
But then they ought to at least get an excused absence if they aren't here in person, so they aren't, doesn't show that they didn't participate. That might be a problem.
Maybe.
Because there wouldn't be any reason for them to even participate remotely if they weren't going to get any credit, if they were going to be considered absent.
Yeah. Or I'm thinking, what if we just put a limit, per year? Say we've got 11 meetings in the
That's what I
year.
was thinking, give everybody a.
Yeah. You get like
Occasionally you
2.
got something else going on.
Sure.
It's really
Yeah.
hard.
Well, can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, on as far as attendance virtually, for someone like me, I don't have a car. I travel by bicycle always, and I work at Well Built. So it'll take me at least 45 minutes to an hour to get down there. So I basically would have to cut out work early, a lot more earlier than what I'm cutting out now. I mean, if I have to attend and everybody votes on being attended, then I'll make a way to talk to John about coming to the meetings.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough situation. I hear you on that. I mean, I have to take off early to be here as well, and I understand you not having a car would be greater inconvenienced by it, but I guess I'm still under the idea that we shouldn't lower the bar, but instead raise the bar as far as our expectations for participation. And, if you really want to be a part of this committee, then we want to have you in person, and we think that's really valuable.
We're basically
Okay.
like pre-pandemic time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always required people to be here, so
Yeah.
it's just.
There's one
Well,
concern.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Yeah, I do definitely want to be a part of this, and on the next meeting, I'll do my best to try to attend the meeting, because I actually haven't been able to attend, because like I live on Bush, like I said, I work at the mall, and I have 2 jobs, so it makes it a little hard for me, but I'll make a way. It's not a problem. If I have to leave earlier to get there or take a bus, so that way I can get there quicker, which would also help with city transit and micromobility.
We'd love to have you in person. That sounds wonderful.
There's another consideration, and that is that for people with limited mobility, not just mine, but for anybody that, if you have a mobility issue, then having remote access is good in the sense that people that have physical limitations can participate.
Yes, definitely. That would definitely be a topic in one of the meetings, because you have people that actually use the transit system.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
The other thing is we could work with Mike and make exceptions on a case-by-case basis. And, we're not being punitive about it. We're just trying to say, it's more effective if you're physically here. If you can't be here, we want your opinion anyway.
Yeah, but I'm going to make an extra effort. I definitely want to be there, and I want to see everybody in person.
I'd just like to second what Jim has shared about mobility. I think that that's one of the things that's really come out of COVID, is that we know that we can operate using technology to still continue business And so maybe that case by case basis is a really good way of making sure that we have representation and accessibility covered, right? Because that's part of the mission and the values, right, of this organization.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an administrative burden, so we'll kind of turn over, you and Wade as far as whether you guys are okay with accommodating that or can accommodate that.
Chair, there's a couple of questions online.
Yeah, 1 second here.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I'm here in person.
Okay.
As is.
Okay, yeah, we can go ahead with questions online. Yeah.
David Dudnigan had a question about the rules on proxies. David, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
If I got that right. No, I just think when you have meetings like this, usually there's some suggestion of how you can get your information across through a proxy. It's usually a formal thing. I don't know if there are rules within this group, and considering the discussions going on right now.
Isn't that the alternate? There's an alternate.
What's the question?
Wouldn't the alternate be the proxy? I mean, wouldn't the alternate?
For our agency partners, we do have alternates. For our members at large, we do not. But that's something we can consider if that is the committee's will.
Okay, so I don't know the language, if the alternate is okay. But the notion is that if you have a formal responsibility to vote and you just can't be there, is there a way to have someone else convey your vote? So that's what I meant by a proxy.
We do not have proxies for members at large.
Right. Yeah, nor would I be in favor of that. I think, we don't even make this super extraneous as far as, complex. So, yeah, and it's a difficult thing as well, as far as what rules we're going to apply to all members. Yeah, but there can be exceptions, I think, like they said, if they're good with it. So, okay.
There was also a comment from Ginger Regaldo. Ginger, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to.
Yes, I was just saying that for a partner that's not always able to attend in person, I like the ability to attend virtually so that I can keep abreast of what's going on. So I understand the need to have people there that are on the board. And Well-Built Bikes is a tremendous asset to the community. Just going to say that now. But for me, I can't always make it in person because I'm running from meetings to meetings and all, but having this ability is an asset. So I hope it doesn't go away. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Just like that, yeah, I agree with your motivations for this conversation. I think having people in person, but I'm also concerned about excluding valuable voices because of that decision. So I'm split. I mean, I'd say if you ask my opinion tonight, I'm going to vote for in-person remote participation because people online tonight came in with that assumption. So I wouldn't want to approximate. I'd like to see maybe next meeting if Ben could come back or Wade or whoever with, what's going on with the other committees? What are the flexibility allowed within our bylaws? What actions could we take? And one of them just being voting on it every week and the will of the people that show up, So that's just kind of my view. I'm honestly split, but I'm going to vote to allow it tonight because we hadn't had this discussion, which I think is very good. And I do I do agree with your motives, and I try and be here for the same reasons that you and Peter mentioned.
But I think it's important to remember that we still can't do anything unless we have a forum here in person.
Here in person. I mean, I would hope that if I was at home and I was not on this board and I happened to log on and something was going on and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm either passionate or I know about this item, this is my neighborhood or something. I would hope that whatever I typed in that little chat box would be taken seriously and talked about and discussed. And I feel that comfortable. So I think that I think we should all feel feel comfortable taking anybody's information or suggestions or just any sort of information that they give us online as a community member, as a citizen, right?
I think that's what the public comment is supposed to be.
That's what it's supposed to be, but you're saying that if you're a board member and you're only attending online, you could go ahead and start being involved, but you wouldn't actually vote. So, that's essentially what, okay, all right, yeah. So as a community person, as a citizen, all I have is this public comment time. Right?
Yeah, as a non-board member.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's- I know, but this is a nice board, so I think it would, I mean, I would feel kind of comfortable as long as the quorum is here, right?
Yeah, so like David said, I think this time we approve it, and then say next time, maybe Ben could come up with a framework that we could vote on and maybe have a little more discussion. But I guess the framework that I would initially put forward would be that, you know, you can participate remotely and earn the attendance and have voting, I would say 2 to 3 times per year. And then if the board so votes, then you can do that, I would say 6 times. But I still think 6 to 8 times even, you know, I still think there's value that if you want to be a part of this board, like, you know, there's some level of effort that, you know, and some level of relationship that we need to have with you as far as being able to get to know you in person. So I guess that's what I propose. We can certainly talk about it more and vote on it, but it seems like that's kind of some consensus as far as moving towards more in person while still making exceptions and finding some variations for when people can't be there.
Is there any chance that we could talk to our board about providing their cards for people who want to attend?
Turn it over to you guys as far as what, I mean, that's certainly a financial commitment on their end. I don't know if pass those out, but that would certainly be.
I don't think it would break the bank, but you know, the fact that Disco Light just takes the bus in it.
Right.
It's not without cost. I mean, not only its time, but also the physical dollar cost. And,
We have in the past covered bus fare and provided money to the Sunshine Line to help get people here with mobility issues. And I'm sure we can find a way to accommodate that if Mike needs some help.
Good idea.
Well, on my part, I don't really, how about my end of the financial deal, just help somebody else? Because I got a bike. I can ride my fixed gear. I just have to leave earlier. I see it as a little challenge, so I'm up for it. And plus, I would like to know everybody in person one by one. So that's another reason to motivate me to ride down there, as well as micro mobility.
Yeah, likewise, Mike, we'd like to see you in person and get to know you more.
Definitely.
So, all right, is that something you can do as far as put that together?
Yeah.
All right, well, we can go ahead and have our official vote for consent for remote member participation. So,
Chair, can we have a motion and a second before you take a vote?
yes, we are doing that right now.
I move we allow remote participation.
I'll second that.
Second.
That's Jim Shark and Peter Davitt.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All right, hearing none, passes. Everyone online, welcome in. One last grand time, I guess.
We need to introduce the people that are online.
Yeah, can we go ahead and, would you like to introduce yourselves as far as all of the voting members online?
If you'd like, I can take them in order of how they are appearing on the online screen.
That would be great, Gail.
Brenton Mosier,
This is Brenton Mosier with the University of South Florida.
Christopher
Mike did-
Fellerhoff,
All right. So,
Chris Fellerhoff with Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning.
Martin Santiago,
Mike Disco, Cyclomaniacs with well-built bikes.
Savannah Vidal,
Savannah Vidal, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
John Kubicki, John, you do have the ability to unmute yourself.
John Kubicki, member at large.
Linda Crestantini,
Linda Crescentini, Director of Capital Programs with Hillsborough Transit Authority, Hart.
and Wanda Vinson.
Hi, I'm Wanda Vinson, citizen at large.
And I believe that's all of the online participants for this evening.
Thank you very much, Gail. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and move on to the public comment section. I believe we've got someone here to give us a public comment.
Yeah.
All right. We've got three minutes, so take it away.
Hi, my name is Michael Marca. I was Fly Mama. Rode up here on my fixie tonight also, 21 miles. But I did that because today is the day that you get a report from the county on your multimodal level of service. And as you look over that 97-page document, note that when you look at the bicycle column, I don't know where they got those letters from. I'm going to say some of them are overrated, some of them are underrated. As I rode up US 301 and had to dodge everything that's in the bike lane, they rate that as an A, but it is in no way an A. County Road 39 out by me, beautiful. If you can make bike lanes like that, I would love it. The county rates it as a D or an E or something, and I'm like, no, this is an A. So I don't know where the two planners that worked on this or that are going to present this, where the information came from. I don't know if they came up with the information over the last year, but page 5 is the disclaimer for the TPO that says this whole document doesn't mean anything. I don't know where to go with it. You know, you look at this, you try to plan a route when you're biking, it doesn't do any good. You try to plan for future, like the TPO is supposed to, and if the information in that isn't good, then what are we using it for? And why are we wasting our time creating 97 pages of a document that if US 41 is really an F and we're rating it an A, how does that help us? That means nobody's going to go down there and look at it, when in reality, FDOT needs to go down there and sweep that thing because there's so much truck traffic coming in and out of the port that they need to do something better. Mr. Grace doesn't want to do anything better, so it doesn't get done. But I don't know if my 3 minutes is there. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anybody else or anyone else online for a public comment? Okay, hearing none, we can go ahead and move on to the members' interests portion of the meeting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open up the floor to anyone like discuss anything.
This Friday, there'll be a critical mass monthly ride. Starts occur 6 and 8 o'clock. Bring a coat, it'll be cold. We're gonna ride about 11 miles. There'll be an east side that takes us through Eastmore. There'll be the west side that takes us down Armenia and then down South Howard. So if you see us on our bikes, wave and be politely. That long hump, that's not polite. Two other things, bike riding this week. I live in Temple Terrace, so I was on Bruce B. Downs between Fowler and Holly. There's a brand new bike lane with concrete bumps to keep cars out. I want to thank whoever did that. That's outstanding. And last night we rode on Cass Street, and they've connected the end of Cass Street by the Poe Garage to the other side of Boulevard. So now there's a blocked off bike lane that whole stretch, and that's outstanding. It's a shame we had to wait so long for it, but aces for sure. Rode that and enjoyed it.
I guess in response to your level of service comments as far as the bike lanes out there, I'm kind of curious what criteria they used for doing that. There's kind of two of them out there. There's more of a traditional level of service, and then there's the what you call it, level of comfort level of service that factors in that. So I guess we'll hear about it. We'll try to dive into that for you.
just say most of it's maintenance related.
Okay.
So sewer, 10-inch sewer covers, I've sent emails to Patrick Henry, I don't know how many times. County,
Yeah.
want to replace them? All right, there's a hole in the pipe lane.
Yeah. Because I think typically those level of service scores don't factor in maintenance. Like that's something that's just too hard to kind of calculate. It's not a fixed value, so.
Right,
I think
so
that's-
the Blackness guy, another letter. Blackness guy, great. If it was perfectly built, perfectly maintained, it would be an A.
So if it was clear, it would be an A.
Absolutely, if we took care of our stuff. If we changed the oil in our truck, we wouldn't need to buy a new truck every 3 months.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't take care of the stuff we got, and we keep asking to build new stuff.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to quantify like the fixed infrastructure as far as, you know, this wide, this much separation from a vehicle, this much AADT on the roadways. So,
Yeah, there's a bit of some community, they actually ask people if they're comfortable with it.
oh, is there?
Yeah, there's some sort of community involved, but
That's good. Look at
we're
you.
getting
Yeah.
a sort of feedback that we need to get people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it is purely subjective as far as whether someone rides their bike on that route or not.
Yeah.
So if they're not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll say if it's a 5-foot wide bike lane, you know, like some of the new Green Book stuff says, 5 or 6 foot, whatever it is. But if the right hand 4 foot of that bike lane is full of debris and gravel, I mean, what good is it to have a 5-foot bike lane?
Yeah.
So, you know, and now I'm hugging the white line anyways, down US 301, I'm hugging the white line because the popcorn asphalt that they used years ago is still popping up and that's where it collects.
All right, anybody else? Whose interests?
Hey, Wade, save the date for March 15th for the annual Temple Terrace bike ride with the mayor.
Thank you for that. We're writing it down now. Anybody else?
Yeah, one item. I don't know how many people here know Leo Rogers, but he was in a serious crash down in Miami and he's paralyzed from the chest down. And we're having a little event at the club this weekend, Saturday, to try to raise money for him. So if you're out and about this weekend, drop by the corner club and participate in the auction.
There's also a GoFundMe for them. If you haven't seen that online, go hit the GoFundMe up and help them out.
What time is that event?
I'm not so sure, but if anybody can contact, I'll have the answer to that. Once somebody contacts me.
All right, anybody else? Going once, going twice. Okay, we can go ahead and move on to the approval of minutes. Commenting on the November 30th minutes. Does anyone have any comments or discussion? If not, we can motion to approve.
This is really minor, but ELAP should be 2 Ps. It's just a typo.
Good catch there, sharp eye.
Then I read it, how about that?
That's where we made a motion to not have the December meeting in 22 and 23. I remember doing that.
We get a motion to approve.
So moved with correction.
Second. Second. All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion approves.
Chair, who
And
made the motion?
that was Sally Thompson.
No, I didn't make.
Alan Watson, second, David Aylesworth.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we've got an action item this evening. It's the election of officers, attendance review, and declaration of vacancies. So our very own Ben is gonna take this one, so it's all yours.
Absolutely. So just to review, the TPO bylaws require annual officer elections. You don't have any term limits, and so you can be reelected and serve indefinitely. And right, you'll have a chair, vice chair, and officer at large, as you currently do. Usually you, Tim, is chair, Jim's the current vice chair, Peter is the officer at large. You can nominate yourself or any other member, and you don't need a second. And after all the nominations have been received, the nominations are closed, and each one will be voted on individually until one member gets a majority of the votes. And also we have the the committee attendance from last year attached that you all can see and review. It's just up for approval as well.
Are you ready for?
Yeah.
I wanted to know if the people that are currently officers are willing to serve again.
Are we willing to serve again?
Yes.
And if so, I would make a motion that we re-up them, unless somebody wants to make a motion for something else.
I'm sorry, I also meant to add in just a bit about the attendance policy. Right, you're also just supposed to review that annually. And anyone who failed to attend 3 consecutive meetings, that's somebody TPO might consider rescinding the appointment. And people who've exceeded 3 absences, you'll be contacted to determine what their intentions are regarding committee membership. And if nobody responds, if you don't respond to that contact, then the seat can be declared vacant and the new member would be sought out. So I just left that bit out. So.
That all happens automatically as far as it's not something we have to actively vote for or do.
Right, that's all around the bylaws.
Are there vacancies?
It looks like 2.
Are there 2? I think those 2 are covered by the people underneath. And what does that say?
Were there any that
That's
we
just
didn't
for
weren't
that.
able to vote on? Just because that was-
If you look at the end of the year, it's here.
Because I know over the months, there've been people that have wanted to be on and we didn't always have a quorum.
I think we're able to get them in.
I think we
here
covered it.
Yeah, we covered it all.
afterwards.
Ben, on the legend, so it says Y and N, but some of them say WWA, E.
The E is excused. A WA is virtual for an alternate. A Y and an A is a yes for an in-person for an alternate.
And what's W and V?
W is virtual, and I'm sorry, what's the other one? D?
V.
Oh,
Vacant.
V would be a vacancy. And currently, I believe for 2023, there are no vacancies on this committee.
Right. I guess, is there anything in particular you'd like to draw our attention to on here? I mean, I feel like I'm a little lost looking at it personally.
Yeah.
So this is Chris Fellerhoff. Could I just ask the clarification on what it takes to get an excused absence is just, as I understand, to inform the committee that you have a reason you are going to be absent in advance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's been our policy.
Okay. And I mean, it's a different department, but I noticed that one of our other county representatives have some spotty attendance, and I've shared that with my superiors so that people are aware of that. I can't do anything about it directly, but wanted to be clear that from our end, the county is committed to participating.
is,
Are we back to election of officers?
I think I guess so, yeah. I guess is Abigail Flores on the committee?
She is.
She is, okay.
Here she's the alternate. She's an A maybe.
Okay.
But
Marcelo, which he doesn't have anything on there. But like Christopher said, he's on it and aware of it, talking to his people about it. So I think we can take that as addressed. So does anyone have any other comments or questions before we get into the election officers?
I did just also have a clarifying question. You were discussing the attendance rule of missing 3 meetings. I guess I think I heard the question to Ben was that if that was noted, the committee could choose to take action or choose to not take action. It's not automatic in your case, correct?
Right. It's at the TPM's discretion.
Okay, so that would give the committee sort of cause to take action. Okay, and I'm the staff coordinator for the Greenways Committee, and we have our own attendance challenges. And, we have a similar rule that people who do not attend regularly could be replaced by the committee, but it is also not automatic. We could, especially, I'll just point out that becomes problematic if you need a quorum to take action, and you're not getting people consistently attending to get quorums, then you could sort of just stall out with poor attendance that you can't take any action on because it's inhibiting your ability to get a quorum. So we've been having broad discussions about whether or not having that automatic is a possibility or not, because that would help reduce the number you need to get quorum in order to actually take the action that you need to take to actually be an action-taking body. So just
Chris,
interesting side note on that policy.
I think in the past, on different committees, if somebody has been absent, we will make, or staff will make an attempt to contact the person to find out if he or she is still interested and encourage him or her to come, because we can't.
Right.
But we don't just drop them without trying to get in touch with them.
Right. But it still kind of presents a stalemate if you can only remove somebody and there's not a term limit and there's not an automatic sort of attendance trigger or something like that, you can get stuck in a cycle where you don't get quorum and people stop attending, but you can't really take the action to remove people. And you get kind of in this death spiral of attendance problems you can't do anything about because you can't get a quorum. So it's just one of the things we'll be discussing next week, Sally, but I just, since it came up here, I'd kind of point out that
that's a great point.
And COVID has really exacerbated it.
Yeah. So Ben, you said the automatic removal from the group only occurs if it's 3 consecutive times?
It's 3 consecutive, and that just means that at that point, the TPO could review and consider declaring the seat vacant. It's not automatic per se, but that's the point at which we would try to reach out to the person.
Okay.
Tim,
I guess I feel like a
is that 3 any absence, or is that 3 unexcused absence?
I think it's unexcused.
And it's consecutive.
3 consecutive unexcused absences.
Right.
Yeah,
then the committee would still need to take the action to declare the seat vacant.
I personally don't want to vote somebody off, if that makes sense. I'd rather there just be a minimum bar that is an expectation. And if you're not able to, you fall to meet that bar, then it's just it's a part of the rules, and you don't have to put the committee through voting you off the island.
Well, I think the staff would be in touch with make an attempt to be in touch. So the staff person would have done the due diligence. So by the time it came to us, it wouldn't come across as being addictive or anything. It would be that maybe the person wasn't interested, you couldn't read.
Yeah, I do like that. It is a lot on the staff.
Yeah,
Cal?
talking through about how it could affect B2, I think maybe after two, if you're going to keep the limit at 3, then after the second one, if staff could reach out to that person and ascertain their interest, and then they'd be encouraged to show up the next time, or offer an explanation of that, or be encouraged to resign if they're really not able to make the meetings. Then at least your quorum is not dependent on your power to remove them. Your quorum can be helped by someone who recognizes they don't have the available time to be on the committee and they would voluntarily resign. At least then you have a way to replace them without quorum and voting and all that stuff.
And Chris is right on, and that is how we've handled it more than 90% of the time in the past.
Okay. No, I don't see a need to change that. I mean, I guess, is there anyone you recommend removing as?
Yeah, there's not.
Okay.
We just tried to call that purges.
Yeah.
We're purging members.
All right, so I think we've got understanding as far as how this works and don't necessarily need to change the system. So shall we go on to election officers?
I had made a motion that we continue with the same officers since they're interested, since they have indicated that they were willing to serve. So I don't know, I can make that motion, but I don't know.
I don't think you need a motion. I think you're just nominating these.
I'm nominating.
And then we're voting on them one at a time. And that helps you explain it. Yeah.
But somebody else,
Yeah,
other
you're
people
nominating.
may be nominating. them.
Absolutely. So we have nominations for these offices. Are there any others? Yeah.
Are there any other nominations for any one of the 3 roles? If not, we can.
I have a question. Since I'm new, this is my first
I
meeting.
can't hear you.
I said I have a question since I'm new, this is my first meeting. How long have you been in your roles?
Just one term.
I've been here for 1 year and Jim was previously the chair and now vice chair. 1 year for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
There's only one member, one nomination, just really pushing us.
Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and, for my role, sounds like we've got a motion through Sally to
Then you need to say.
have me be another year. So we have a second.
I don't think it's a required second. We're just nominating. So you nominate them and I think we just vote. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anyone opposed? Start with that. All right. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. The chair. Now for Jim, we can do it again. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
What?
All right, likewise, Chair. Jim, welcome for your second year. And now for Peter. All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, yeah, hearing none, done deal. Back to another year, sounds good.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad I've, yeah, met the expectation, we could say. Okay, so I believe that's that item. Now we can move on to status reports. City of Tampa micromobility update by Calvin Thornton. Don't see him in person, so it must be online or so, but we can go ahead and turn over the floor for that presentation.
Calvin, where?
Is Calvin here?
Chair Calvin is not online.
Not online.
Is there any? Okay. I will come back to that one. We can hop to the multimodal level of service report in 2022 state of the system report. And we've got a couple here from the TPO staff coming to present to us. So the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Connor McDonald, TPO staff. Here's this presentation. One second. All right, everyone. There we go.
Okay.
All right, can everyone see the screen online and hear me all right?
Connor, ready to get rid of that or not?
Yes, we can see it online.
Thank you. All right, Connor McDonald, CPO staff, I'm here to present the 2022 multimodal level of service report. I also have Ashaka Shipran online as well to present the second portion of the presentation on the state of the system report. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some of your questions regarding the level of service. So the purpose of the report, and I know you are familiar, so this is a status update in the past, but just as a refresher, is to report and produce a comprehensive list of major roadways in the TPO's major roadway network and their multimodal operating conditions. So what can the report be used for? Externally, it can be used by local agencies to evaluate whether standards set in comprehensive plans are achieved. Can also be used for reports for prioritizing projects within an agency. Internally, at Plain Hillsborough staff, we use this for comprehensive plan amendments, ETTM reviews, emission transportation decision making, state of the system report, which we'll learn more about later and how that's incorporated among other reports and plans. So a little bit of background again, the LOS was concept developed for vehicles as a measure of convenience or delay. But research has explored new methods to quantify safety and comfort for bicyclists and pedestrians. So LTS1, an example, would be comfortable for all ages and abilities, and LTS4 would be uncomfortable for most. You can see kind of those physical examples, but LTS is a measure of comfort, not necessarily the measure of the facility itself. So some project history. In 2017, we evaluated the existing MMOS methodology and established level of traffic stress standard. Last February, we used a finer gradient of existing conditions for bicycle and pedestrian LOS and applied this to all roads within the county. Last summer, we incorporated those two methodologies into our database and reviewed and updated the transit level of service calculation. Here today, we are presenting a report for the major roadways in the TPO. So before review of the content, there's an introduction, and then we list the level of service for state roads, then VIA roads, Hillsborough Expressway Authority, Hillsborough County roads, City of Plant City, and City of Tampa roads. And as you'll note here, Temple Terrace is not included, and it's because the City of Temple Terrace does not own any roadways in the TPO major roadway network, which is defined by federal mandate. In the appendices, we list the variables used, a definition of the LOS and LTS, the FDOT 2020 generalized tables, which we use as a source, and a map of the roadway network by motion. So some methodology sources for vehicular, bicycle, and transit. We did use the FDOT Quality Level of Service Handbook, and that's a standard adopted in several jurisdictions. Then for bicycle and pedestrian, we also use our best practices research and input from county staff about the ability to local conditions, incorporating that LTS. For transit level of service, we can use the handbook and also our best practices. So some variables used, you all would likely be interested in the bicycle level of service and pedestrian level of service. So if you use vehicle volumes, number of directional through lanes, speed, width of the outside lane, on-street parking presence, width of paving between an outside lane and the edge of the pavement, the width of a shoulder or bicycle lane or percentage of heavy vehicles, pavement condition, or the width of the sidewalk. And again, the bicycle and pedestrian level of service, they don't always, it's not evaluating For PLOS and VLOS, volumes shown in the tables are not the number of pedestrians or bicyclists, rather they are the number of the vehicles in the outside. Unlike vehicle level service, which is highly dependent on the number of other vehicles on the roadway, pedestrian and bicycle level service are determined to how many other pedestrians or cyclists use the facility. Rather, it is primarily determined by the presence of sidewalks and bicycle accommodations and the volume of vehicles, rather than the volume of the pedestrians and bicyclists. So an example of the contents, we list the on-street, the from and to street, many of the variables that we use, and on the right side, you'll see that vehicle level of service, bicycle level of service, PLOS, and T. So some more on how MLOS is used. It's used as a yardstick for setting standards for different geographic areas or road types in local government comprehensive plans. So Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan's capital improvements element, which is a draft, it's not yet adopted, sets the vehicle level service standard for D for arterial class roads. For pedestrian and bicycle level service standards, it's B for roads in context class C4 and C32, which are urban areas or suburban town center areas. Mobility level service standards are non-regulatory, so they set targets for planning purposes. So we also, staff can also use this to evaluate infrastructure to identify areas for improvement, develop, review, and design of projects on roads. So the final report you can find at planhillsborough.org/level of service report. And there is one more update coming to the county roads. We're just doing the final committee you can see on those county roads. And I'll transition to the state of the system report. And let Vishaka Shivapan take over. Vishaka, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear the room. Thank you, Connor. Good evening, committee members. This is Vishaka Shivraman, TPO staff. I'm here to present the state of the system report. As Connor had mentioned earlier, thank you for this opportunity. Just to give you a brief idea about the state of the system report, this report reports the trends in transportation performance and the trends in the transportation system, including infrastructure condition, bridges payments, the resiliency, the safety target, the transit assets, and the travel time reliability. With this update, we call it the 2022 edition. This is just a highlight edition, which gives you some updates from the last time we did it, which was in 2021. So this report is kind of made as a highlight to help with the performance target setting, which we will be doing later this year. And it helps to get an overall picture of the transportation system performance in the county. The detailed report is, like I said, it'll be available in the website, which is hyperlinked here. Next slide, please. So continuing on the state of the system report and why it is important, it helps to track the progress for transportation planners and elected officials and public to make informed decisions. This helps with project prioritization as we move ahead with the transportation improvement program and the long-range transportation program development. And it's a data-driven approach to help track the performance over the years. So you can see how the system has been performing over the years and helps to identify the areas of strength and weaknesses. Like I said, this helps to make decisions on project prioritization and where investments are needed for improvements. This report complies with the federally required congestion management report and serves as that report. Next slide, please. So this slide is using some of the data that Connor had mentioned earlier. Except the county roads, we do have some, the other roads are mentioned here. We'll give you an idea about how the system is performing in the area of vehicular level of service, bike, pedestrian, and transit level of service. So the first map on the left will give you an idea about the county roads, and the second map on the right gives you an idea about the level of service for all modes for state roads. If you look in the map, if you look in the charts, generally you can see that the darker orange color is more. As in transit especially, this implies that the transit level of service is very poor in the county overall, which helps to understand that we need more investments in transit. Next slide, please. These are similar charts which will give you level of service by all modes for the City of Tampa roads and planned city roads. Keep in mind that these are just the percentage, these are just calculated by the miles of roads for each jurisdiction, which is obtained from the MMLOS report that Connor had went over earlier. Next slide, please. Like I said earlier, this report only reports some of the highlights on the performance of the transportation system. So we are not covering everything. Here we are to show their performance in transit. This slide helps you to understand that as of November 2022, when we last received the report from HART, we had over 958,000 total trips just for the month of November, with an average weekday bus ridership of 30,000 trips. The on-time performance for each mode is given here as buses 72%, streetcar had a very high performance of over 99%, and paratransit had 93% in this reporting period. I would like to highlight here that the streetcar did have the most ridership in this year, and it's a record number of over 1 million riders in 2022, which is really something that was a highlight to be mentioned in the report. Next slide, please. So some of the transit asset management targets, I can explain a little bit with this, is how we calculate this. This is what you see here is the category, which is rolling stock, which are the buses and the revenue vehicles, the equipment, which are all the other vehicles, rubber vehicles, etc. The facilities, which are the passenger and parking facilities and administrative facilities. And the goals for 2022 are the same as they were set in 2020. So until the next transit asset management target is updated, these goals will remain the same. And what we received from HART is shown here for the performance percentage of each of the category. Next slide, please. Next slide. This slide I would like to highlight and show some of the statistics that we recorded. At the time this presentation was made, we had the most recent data through end of 2022. And you can see that the fatalities, although they have dropped in 2022 compared to that of 2021, it is still high. As of, like I mentioned, at the time this report was made, it did meet the target. However, this number is subjected to change as we get the most recently updated numbers. And that will help us to see if we meet the target, if we have met the target for 2022 or not. Next slide, please. So these are some of this slide will help you to understand how the state of the system report will help to guide the performance target setting, which we will be doing. Some of the dates which are shown here are safety. We will be doing the safety targets, which will be going to the TPO in Feb, which is next month. The greenhouse gas emissions, good repair, travel time, reliability, and transit asset managements are all tentative as of now. And the dates are shown here, which are in March, April, and May, but they are also subject to change. Next slide, please. With this, I would just like to take any questions or comments at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, this is just a quick highlights to give you an overview of how we are. We will do an updated report as we progress and with the target setting. I can take any questions here.
Any other questions?
Peter Davitt here. I've been on a committee 4 years and I've watched the HART bus or the not good repair numbers. And from what I'm thinking, I remember the first time I saw it, it was like 49% of the rolling stock or whatever was not good repair, which I thought was appalling. It appears that that's gotten down to 40%, either by fixing or removing the ones that don't work. I don't know how, but that's just one of the things that jumped out to me. My first time watching this and to this time, it seems that the repair is better, or they're lasting longer, or something's happened, but those numbers seem to have gone from 49 to 40, if that's what I remember.
Okay. I had received this number from Hart, but that was the most recent data that we received. I would need to I would need to verify them and update if that has changed since the time we produced the numbers.
Now go back another
It's like
screen,
22, yeah.
that one there, top line, rolling
Yeah.
stock, rail cars, bus ferries, 40.6%.
In 2020.
Actually, I just wanted to mention that this was a slide. This was not the right slide. The next one is actually the correct slide.
Okay.
Because we did not calculate the target. We just did with the most updated numbers that we had.
All right, so it's gone from 40% to 22%.
Yes, that was what I got based on the numbers that they gave me. I would need to verify and have them validate these numbers for me.
And as Vishaka mentioned, the state of the system serves as the preliminary phase to the performance measures. So we will be coming back with transit asset management performance measures so we can see that over time. I'm happy to share that. Once we can solidify these numbers more, and I can report them over time.
So these numbers here, they're as of when? September, October, May, June?
So
through the end of the year, through the end of last year.
This was not really the end of the year. They do get the monthly updates. So at the time I received it, I think it was November. And I can validate if that is end of November or the data is end of October.
That's fine. I don't know. I just remember that first time seeing that big number of half the buses didn't run. I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing here? But it seems we're in better shape.
And I did have, this numbers we calculated based on some meetings with Hart. And the numbers are raw numbers, what they get. So we calculate the vehicles that are not in good repair over the total number of vehicles. So that's how we arrive at this percentage. Although I need to validate if that has changed. That numbers changes every month as per my understanding. So at any given point of time, we would have to get the most updated numbers from them.
Vishaka, it's David Saletti. I've got a question with respect to the level of service report, and that is in regards to how safety is taken into consideration in respect of bicyclists and pedestrians. Is that something that's directly assessed within the level of service in terms of the grade 1 through 4 or 5, or is that something which is separately accounted for? I saw the slide regarding fatalities, but aside from that, how is safety incorporated in respect to level of service for bicyclists and pedestrians?
So in safety, you're referring to the number of fatalities or serious injuries on a roadway? Or?
Well, I think that would be certainly an example of it. If there are other ways to assess it, I'm just curious what you do to assess safety.
Right. I think the primary goal of the level of service report is to just measure the infrastructure on the roadway rather than the producing results of it, measuring that level of traffic stress. Would you add anything to that, Wade?
Sure. It's more, in addition to the infrastructure, it's sort of the exposure, the volume, the speed, the existence or non-existence of a facility on that roadway. We have not in the past incorporated number of crashes by mode or the seriousness, severity of those crashes. But that's something we do have data on and we could incorporate in the future if that's in the interest of the committee.
I was just curious. This is my first official meeting, so I'm not sure what other sorts of presentations I may receive. I saw you had the February 8th safety.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next month to present those safety targets and the results of 2022, and how we predict those targets for 2022.
Hello, this is Chris Fellerhoff. I'm with the county and I collaborated a little bit with Wade on this, and I can chime in a little on that question in that traditionally these bike level of service measures, there's a number of different types of them, but what they claim to be most directly are stress models. So given the data of the traffic conditions and the infrastructure, how stressful the experience is for a bicyclist. So, and sometimes paired with that is the expression of the perception of safety. And again, that's kind of their reaction to the conditions of an individual cyclist reactions to the conditions of the traffic, not whether or not somebody actually got hurt there, but whether somebody would reasonably believe they could get hurt and might avoid it, is kind of what they're measuring for. So it's a psychological anticipation measure rather than a tally of incidences. And one of the ways that also is kind of it's smart to do that for a lot of reasons, but one of them also is that if you could imagine like a rural road or something like that, there may be a lot of roads out there that people studiously avoid because they don't feel safe on them, and therefore you don't have any crashes out there because there are no bicyclists out there. So in some ways, kind of by sort of inverse logic, the number of crashes in some ways represents that there is enough perceived comfort somewhere that people are actually attempting to ride it versus those roads where they don't even ride at all. If you take the absence of crashes to mean it's safe, you could end up with kind of an unintended positive view of a road too. So that's one of the challenges of using that kind of crash data in this sort of application. And while I've got your attention, I'll also, I did hear Mike LaMarca's comments at the beginning, and there are, in any application of a methodology like that, you kind of have to make a cutoff point about how much data you're going to collect and how based on your resources available. And so if you were doing kind of new field work to collect the data on counting the lanes and being out there on all these segments, taking photographs, measuring the lanes, getting all that kind of stuff on the ground, you could observe such things as overgrowth of grass, encroachment into the shoulder area, or excessive debris. And then you could then also make an adjustment to what the sort of the measured pavement of the shoulder is versus the usable width of the shoulder is. And you could make those adjustments were you doing, real field work. In this case, I think this is primarily composed from, a GIS database of what features are present on the roadways. So, I mean, you have to have those caveats that it wasn't based on, very recent independent field work, but those things certainly could be taken into account with a bigger budget, more rigorous application of this model for, fresher, more detailed on the ground data.
Thank you, Chris.
I just wanted to go off of something that Chris just said, that Victoria said at the very beginning when we heard public comment about just because what we're looking at is a dimension of maintenance, right? That impacts the usability, right? And so I wonder how that can be structured into something that addresses safety. It just addresses a whole other piece. Like you could build, but are you maintaining it? If it's being built, not maintained, then what are, the investment that's been made.
Right.
Right. It's hindering the ability to access and use it.
Right. And yeah.
So could that be in like a dimension of what's collected somehow? I know you can't do it for every single. Right. Can you, use some type of methodology that allows for their need?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the data on like pavement condition or the performance measures that the state of the system report use or the safety. So it's definitely something that we can incorporate. I don't know that we have the pavement data in here is specific to the roadway, of course, but for the performance measures, we get a percentage that FDOT provides to us. Some of that is private, like the condition of a bridge. We're not that's not shared with us, but it's definitely something. The maintenance and safety is something we can incorporate in the future.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that concludes it for our questions. Unless anyone else had any other questions, I'll throw it out one more time. All right, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, so we can get back on the agenda. I guess we can check in and see if Calvin Thornton is there for our micromobility update.
He has not made it on, we'll have to reschedule.
Okay, sounds good. So after that, that is really it. We don't have any old business or new business, and we can go ahead and have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Motion Sally, second David.
There we go. All in favor?
All right.
Motion passed. Yeah.
Just got moved in unanimously. It's time to exercise.
I'll go to my head.
About 4 blocks.